Today is a very important day. Today is Super Tuesday. And for those of you that don't know, Super Tuesday is defined by the Washington Post as the day that 14 states have their primaries, and that includes California. So Super Tuesday awards 1,357 delegates, and to put that into perspective, it takes 1,991 delegates in order to win the nomination. And California will give out over 30% of the delegates given out on Super Tuesday. So it's important for all of us to know that. And in this election, there's been a lot of questioning of democratic socialism, especially as Bernie Sanders is a proclaimed democratic socialist and is currently the front runner for the primaries by only a few delegates. And democratic socialism, as defined by the Democratic Socialists of America, is the belief that the economy and society should be run democratically to meet the public needs and not to profit for a few. And this is very popular among young voters, but in reality it can have a lot of negative effects, especially when established here in America. If Bernie Sanders were elected, it could create a lot of consequences for us. And I already voted through mail ballot, and I did a lot of research on different candidates and what they stand for to make sure that my vote counts for something I believe in. Oftentimes, democratic socialism is, the true definition of it is not truly understood. It has also failed in many other countries, and it would be damaging towards our economy. Democratic socialism isn't actually that different from regular socialism. Voting for something doesn't necessarily make it moral. So that's why the United States is not actually a democracy, but we're a constitutional representative republic. So that's in order to protect the rights of the minority, because straight democracy often leads to mob rule, and it could hurt the minority. The Democratic Socialists of America claim that they don't want an all-powerful government bureaucracy, but they also claim that they want the workers to own all economic institutions, which could only be done through the force of government. It has also been failed in other countries. Often people look to like Cuba and Venezuela, who are socialists, but they also claim that that's not real socialism, or they didn't do it right. So instead I'm going to focus on a country that Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialists of America actually refer to a lot in their policies, and that's Sweden. So Sweden is not actually socialist, and but according to Mark Kesselman in an article on democratic socialism in Sweden, it had been at one time, but during that time the economy worsened, and even socialists themselves complained about the high taxes that they had to pay. And the high taxes that they did pay didn't even result in getting Medicare for all. They had like long lines waiting for their health care, which was problematic. So they decided to abolish some government control and privatize companies, which they realized they needed because it brought innovation and competition for private companies. And Karen Anderson wrote an article on pension politics, and in the 1990s, Sweden had a large publicly controlled pension funds, but they started privatizing that because they realized that politicians would promise that they'd raise pensions in order to get people's votes, but in reality that would just lead to higher taxes, which was problematic for some people. And you can often see that in our election now when people are promising different free things to try to get people's votes when in reality it might not work out the way that they promise. And also in Sweden, they didn't heavily tax the rich like people say that they would here. Instead, the low-income workers were often getting the most in taxes. So Sweden is actually far from socialist. It would also be damaging towards our economy. So oftentimes capitalism now has a negative connotation, and but actually capitalism is what has historically gotten the most people out of poverty throughout the world. And it's also said that it doesn't allow for economic mobility, but that's not true because wages have been increasing more than ever now. And there's also a complaint that there's too much wealth inequality, but there's actually no correlation to wealth inequality and the poverty rate according to the Cato Institute. So, for example, like if the top 1% were to, just a low number to make it easy to understand, if they were to increase their income by 100% and the poor were to increase their income, or increase their income by $100 and the poor increased it by $50, while the inequality is increasing, the poor is still raising their wages, and that would be beneficial towards them. It also is harmful towards the middle class because the government actually doesn't have any money, which is they get their money from taxes. So it's our money that they're using. So when they say that things are free, it's not really free in the long run. We're all paid for it. And they would have to tax everyone, not just the rich, in order to get everything that they claim that they are going to do. So for example, free college. Oftentimes they'll promise to, which sounds very appealing to us, to give us free college. But for the people that decide not to go to college, they would still have to pay in taxes for other people to go to college in degrees that might not be as useful. And there's also Medicare for All is also promised. And this is the range of what people estimate it to cost over 10 years. And it ranges from $13.8 trillion to $36 trillion, which is a lot of money. And you can see that the Sanders campaign is the one that has the low estimate, and the Center for Health and Economy has the highest estimate. This sounds appealing, but also people wouldn't be able to keep their doctors, and it would be just cause our country to go to even more debt. And the democratic socialism in the end relies on the fact that they want the government to not be corrupt, which is something that sadly probably not happen. And they also expect that the government can create effective decisions for you using your money. And democratic socialism still has the harms of socialism and has failed in other countries and will hurt the economy. So make sure that your vote counts today. Go to your local polling place. This is the polling place on campus at the Cal Poly Max Center. And don't let the idealistic views of democratic socialism get in the way of its harmful reality.